Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so they are in the bullet portion right now, and it's crazy close. Oh, Wesley. Okay, yeah, so it's like super close. I pretty much only been picking games that Wesley so won. Trying to cater to my Philippine people, Salamat, for watching my stuff. Hopefully my stuff gets spread around some more, so I could get some more watch time and subscribers and things like that. It's always the goal on YouTube. But yeah, like I said, they still have some more time left, and man, it's crazy close. But they did get into the bullet section, and that's where Hikaru Nakamura. I mean, he's the best in the world. He's the best in the world in bullets. So we're hoping that Wesley So can kind of hold him off. But yeah, it's neck and neck. But yeah, so if you guys are ready, now like I said, always at the end of the video, I'll be giving the answer to the previous chess puzzle and give you a new one. So for those of you who don't want to stick around and catch that, I got you. But let's go ahead and take a look at this game here. All right, so we have e4, we have e5, knight to f3. All right, so we got knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Roy Lopez is on the board. One of the oldest openings that we have in chess. Knight to f6, we got d3. So we have the Berlin defense. And as a lot of you guys out there know, this is the weapon that Vladimir Kramnik busted out against Garry Kasparov in their 2000 match, and even for the world champion, it was kind of rough. It was kind of tough to break. So we have bishop to c5, and so we have c3. As you guys noticed in my previous two videos ago, after castles we saw knight to d4. And, it's kind of a little bit of an issue. You had to trade and stuff like that. Not like it was lost, but, it can be kind of annoying. So we have castles, knight b to d2. We got d6, just getting us to the point where we can complete our development with the bishop move somewhere. Not here, but here. And so we have castles for white. So knight to e7, just breaking that pin. And so we have rook to e1, knight to g6. We have d4. Since this knight is not still on c6, it's not protecting the d4 square, so d4 is a very logical pawn push. So we have bishop back to b6, and we have h3, making sure that we don't have any bishop g4s coming. And so we have c6, knocking that bishop back, bishop to d3. Now, it's not always the case, but, a lot of the times when you have a piece developed to a certain square and it gets attacked by a pawn, you want to try to retreat it, but you want to try to retreat it in the most central fashion. So instead of like retreating the bishop back to like e2 or f1, d3 is a very logical, square. Of course, e2 would block this rook. And then f1 would just basically be undeveloping the bishop. So you don't want to be very passive when you're making your moves. So we have rook to e8, bishop or knight to c4, attacking that bishop here. And so we have bishop back to c5, and we have pawn takes e5, pawn takes e5, and we have a4. We have a nice placement of our knight here on c4, so we don't want any b5s coming and knocking that off. Then of course, if a6 comes, trying to, push that point home, we can have, we can have a5 to, completely stop it. So, when you put your pieces in certain squares, you really want them to be able to stay put, if you can. So, that's why we see a4 here. So we see h6, and h6 is actually the novelty of the game. So as natural of a move as it looks, this is the first time we've seen this exact position. You could pretty much owe that to probably a4 and all of the little different, moves that have been made. Bishop here, bishop back, stuff like that. So it doesn't take long sometimes to get into like a brand new game. But h6 is very legitimate. I mean, you don't want bishop g5s coming. You want to be able to freely move your queen without having to worry about there being an issue with damaging your pawn structure here. So we have queen to c2, knight to h5, we have knight to e3, so knight h to f4, and so we have bishop back to f1. Now in this particular situation, yeah, you probably want to back that bishop up to f1 because you don't want to trade that. It's a pretty nice piece. So we have queen to f6, and this is a pretty clear well, maybe it's a pretty clear intention. So we see knight to f5, which is pretty much the only move in the position, because you have an issue with the f3 knight. So if we just take a look at a couple of variations of, you know, why there's an issue here with this queen to f6 move. If you were just to make like somewhat of a natural move like king to h1, you know, you would see knight takes h3, pawn takes h3, and then queen would take f3. So you know, queen f6 is a very clear threat on that pawn, on that knight on f3, because nothing really is defending it other than that pawn. You know, a slightly better variation after that would be you know, knight to h2, just moving the knight completely out of that way. And so after bishop e6, king to h1, you would have rook a to d8. So even in this particular position, you see that black has a really nice position. You know, you don't really have any white pieces kind of going into black's camp. You have this knight entrenched here, or ensconced here on this f4 square, and you know, the rook is controlling this file and stuff like that. So you know, it's you know, you're looking pretty good. You're looking pretty good as black. So getting back to what we had before, we have knight to f5, and so we see knight to e7, bishop takes f4, pawn takes f4, knight takes e7, rook takes e7, and we see rook a to d1. And queen to g6 is a multi-purposeful move because, you know, it's exploiting the fact that this queen is undefended, so there's no e5 pushes. It's also threatening, you know, just a straight up bishop takes h3. And so we sidestep that with king to h1. So we have bishop to d7. So queen to d2. Rook a to e8. So we see e5 come. And we have bishop to b6. And so a5 is a cute little move. Just knocking this bishop away so we can capture this pawn on f4 without dropping this f2 pawn. And so bishop comes back to b6. And so we see bishop to d3, getting in a little attack on the queen. And so queen to h5. So we see rook to e2. So bishop to c7, pinning that pawn down to the queen. And so we see rook d to e1, and we see f6. Now generally this will be a problem, you know, f6, because as you can see, you know, this pawn is pinned to the queen, so we definitely can't move it or anything because we're just gonna drop the queen. But white does have queen e4 at their disposal, and so they have the ability to just kind of sidestep all of that. You know, it's amazing how many times you can use this in a game. You know, there are a lot of times when somebody's calculating as the other side, you know, they're not really fully calculating those Zwischenzug, those in-betweener moves and stuff. And, you know, I've used them plenty of times in my game. And it's a nice little exclamation point. So we see f5 and queen to b4, just attacking this undefended b7 pawn. So we have bishop to c8. We have e6. You know, of course, the pawn is uncapturable because it's very heavily defended. Also, you know, you have a problem on this diagonal if the bishop wants to, you know, pop on c4. And so we see bishop to b6. So bishop to c4. Now, if we back up here just a touch, bishop to b6. If you want to stop the video real quick and see what white actually missed, it's a very strong continuation. And it's very possible that you could have, you know, the game after this could be won. And so, like I said, if you want to go ahead and pause the video real quick and see if you can see the move that Nakamura actually missed, it's almost a piece worth in value. All right, cool. Well, the move that was played in the game was bishop to c4, like I think I showed a second ago. But the very strong move was queen to h4. Let's do that. Queen to h4. Now, queen to h4, it poses a very serious question to this queen. And there's only really two, you know, different possibilities you can pursue. You can back the queen up to g6, but you're going to see g4. And so there's not really a way for you to defend. You know, you can't move the queen really anywhere, and this is automatically going to be the move that's going to come in a second. So, you know, you kind of have some problems. And so, you know, if we come back to queen to h4, you would more or less be forced to take. And then after knight takes, you know, you're having some pretty serious problems with this pawn. You know, of course, you can't, you know, push this pawn to defend. And then knight to g6 is going to be coming. And you're pretty much going to be losing in exchange. So it's putting black in a very bad spot. So like I said, we did have bishop to c4. And so we see g5. So bishop to b3. And so we see g4, you know, Wesley is just, you know, he's going on the severe attack here. So we see knight to h2. Pawn takes h3. We have g3. And we have king to g7. And now the king is sidestepped from any of the you know, any of the tactics and stuff that are involved here on the diagonal there. And so we see queen to f4. So queen to g5. We see queen to e5 check, and queen to f6 just covering. And so we see knight to f3. Queen takes e5. Rook takes e5. And then now, unfortunately, we see bishop takes f2. You know, your pawn structure is just kind of, you know, crumbling here. And so we see rook 1 to e2. So bishop takes g3. We see rook takes f5. Bishop takes e6, and then we see rook to f4. And I'm not really fully sure what happened in this position. I'm pretty sure that either it was a mouse slip or maybe possibly without really thinking, you know, Nakamura was thinking that after the bishop takes here, you can have a check here, but not realizing that the bishop is just able to take. And it's in this position that Nakamura resigned the game. You know, there's just not really anything you can do. You're down an entire piece. You're down a couple of pawns, and you know it's just a really miserable looking position for white. So like I said, he did resign this game, and you know we are still in the bullet portion. So like I think they have like a couple of games that they have remaining. But to get to the puzzle for you guys, we have this puzzle here, and like I said, it is a demolition of pawn structure theme. And so, I mean, automatically bishop to g6 should have come to your attention. And so after bishop to g6, you'd see f takes g6. You'd see queen to h6, threatening mate on g7. The king would move down. You'd see queen takes h7, king to e6, queen takes g6 with check. And you would have to block because if the king does take here, you'd see f4, and that would be checkmate. So the bishop would block. The bishop would take, queen would take, and you'd see rook to c6, and that'd be all she wrote. And now getting to the next puzzle, it is also a demolition of pawn structure. And so, like I said, if you want to put this in your, put this in your chess engine just to see the position. Don't cheat though. Go ahead and do that. If not, you can always set it up on your board. I try to, keep it to where the picture is clear. And I don't have anything coming up in the way, so you can, go ahead and just set this position up on your board if you want to. But go ahead and comment and like and subscribe. And I appreciate you guys stopping by. Salamat to all my people in the Philippines. And if there's any other games you want me to analyze, I still have some more time for today. So let me know and I'll try to do that for you. All right. I appreciate it, guys.